everyone, welcome back to another channel, the first video for 2025. I hope that you all had an amazing New Year's and Christmas period. Sending so much love to anyone watching that struggles during that period of the time. If this is the first time that my face is bracing your YouTube, I'm Brooke McQuaid. I like to film reading videos, monthly reading wrap-ups, weekly vlogs, that kind of thing. I just like to document my life. This is actually going to be the first year that I am setting a TBR for the year. I do monthly TBRs. I filmed my January one over on TikTok if you want to go check that out. It's just Brooke McQuaid. But I thought we should mix it up and set 25 books that I want to read in the year of 2025. I have a tendency of pigeonholing myself into romance, romantasy and fantasy, which is all good and well, but I have been ignoring a few books on my shelves that I know are going to be good. So I've got a good variety in here from general fiction, thriller, mystery, some romance, historical fiction, etc. You'll probably notice a few of old TikTok books or very popular books that I have not got around to reading yet. So feel free to yell at me through the camera. I completely understand that I'm late to the game for this. Also have a few that have been gifted that I haven't heard much about. And then obviously at the end we'll go through a couple of new releases that are on this list. I've kept the new releases pretty short. So I think we only have 4 new releases that I put on the 25 books for 2025. I'm putting it out into the universe. You guys are my accountability buddy. I'm going to get through them. I'm going to get through all 25 books this year. I'm feeling good about it. So let's get into it. Starting off strong, don't yell at me, but I have Binding 13. This was on my TBR a couple of months last year and I just never got around to it. I think it's the sheer length of this book that's putting me off. I know that it's a great read. I hear everything about it. I also was the person who did go and buy the whole series. That is something that is out for 2025. But if you don't know what the Boys of Tommen series is, if you're late to the game like me, there is a book of, I think there's 5 out now, and you follow different couples through each story. They're set in Ireland, and I believe it's a rugby town, like small town kind of romance. However, I have heard that it's very emotional and very like soul shattering. I think a lot of the characters deal with some very deep topics, so if you're going to read this series, just look at the trigger warnings. But this is the first of the 25 books for 2025 that we're going to read. Changing it up, we have Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I picked this up when I was in Victoria earlier on in the year before I watched the movie. I loved the movie, I loved the musical. I do know that the book is a little, shall we say, quirky, so I'm curious. I'm curious to see if I like it. I really want to read it before Wicked Part 2 comes out. I'm actually going to see the musical in a couple of weeks. I don't think we'll get this read before then, but this is book number 2. I don't even know what genre you would classify this as. Let me know in the comments. Book 3, we have a romance, The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. I actually got this book as part of the Book Gross's Advent Calendar, and I did film each day unwrapping a book. If you want to watch that, it's either on YouTube Shorts or over on my TikTok as well. But the reason I want to read this is because he wrote The Notebook, and I love The Notebook. I haven't heard anybody talk about this book, but I do know that it's quite popular when I looked it up on Goodreads. So that's just me not seeing the reviews. The quick synopsis of this book is you follow a female main character, and she hasn't told this story in decades, but she was 16, far from home, and waiting to give up her baby for adoption, and I believe it is a love story. It is set around Christmas time, so I don't know if I'll keep this one to the end of the year, but I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I love The Notebook. I think that he's going to write such beautiful stories. I assume it's going to be quite heart-wrenching, but I'm excited. Book number 4, Scythe by Neil Shusterman, I believe it is. This is another book that I picked up when I was in Victoria. It is set in a world where the only way to die is to be gleaned by a professional scythe. So humans have kind of worked out how to be immortal as such. And then I think we follow a couple of main characters who are apprentice scythe. It is part of a series. I've heard great things about the first book. I'm not sure what the rest of the series is like. It's just not my general genre, so that's why we're popping it on this list. So if you've read it, let me know if you recommend. I just had to have a quick break there. I had an iron infusion book, so hence the new bandage. But let's get back on with it. Books 4 and 5, I think, are going to have a lot of you yelling at me through the screen because I haven't read them yet. And that is Archer's Voice. So this is by Mia Sheridan. I believe it's a romance set in a small town. However, it's quite like a impactful one from what I know. The little quote on the back of here does say, a gorgeous tale of survival and the healing power of love. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I think because it has so much love, I'm just worried. Like, what if I don't like it? What if I hate it? But that's not a good enough reason. I need to read my TBR book. So this is book number 4 for 2025. And then book number 5 for 2025 I actually just purchased. So this is my most recent purchase, but it is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. Probably heard about this one as well. It's a historical fiction set in World War II, and you follow 2 women during the war. I believe it's set in Paris. I love historical fictions. I think I just overdid it probably back in 2023. I think I just read too many back to back, so I've not been in the historical fiction era. But this one I've picked up and I'm putting it in the cards. We are finally going to read The Nightingale, and I'm excited to see if Kristin Hannah is going to be one of my new favourite authors. So that is book 5 for 2025. Book number 6, we have Uprooted. I got this for my birthday from my brother and his partner. So my brother's partner, she reads fantasy books, and she recommended this. I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but I'm very excited. So it's called Uprooted. So the main character, whose name I can't pronounce, but I'll pop it here for you. She loves her village set deep in a peaceful valley, but the nearby enchanted forest casts a shadow over her home. Many have been lost to the woods, and none have unchanged. There's a wizard, there's a dragon, magic, so I'm very excited. I think it's a standalone. It actually has a quote on here by Cassandra Clare, so that's a good sign. But yes, this is the 6th one I think we're up to, Unrooted by Naomi Novik. I will keep you updated if this is going to be a new favourite fantasy read for me. Then we have another one that people might yell at me for. We have a general fiction, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I saw Rachel Catherine, Sophie Jane, Georgia Richards Lang, like their little book club, read this. I don't even know if it was 2024 or 2023. It might have been 2023, and they loved it. And again, it's one I picked up and I just haven't read yet. It's been on my TBR a few times and I just haven't read it. So I'm putting it on the 2025 list. So this follows 2 main characters and follows their friendship throughout life. I think it goes back to when they met as children. I think they both met in a hospital. And then it just follows their friendship, the ups and downs of that over the next decade or so, I think. It says, it's a story of friendship and rivalry, fame and creativity, betrayal and tragedy, perfect worlds and imperfect ones. And ultimately our need to connect, to be loved and to love. So excited for this as well. I haven't read too many general fictions, but the ones I have, like Lessons in Chemistry, I do enjoy. So let's get to this. Sorry, that was book 8, not book 7. Book 9, we have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first Brandon Sanderson book that I will read. I don't hear much about this one in particular. I hear about the Skywood and Mistborn series and The Temperance of Tea, I think it's called. But I did pick this up. I think it came out maybe last year. And it's one of those books that I just saw at a bookshop and I was like, I need to have that book. And have I read it? No. I think in this one we follow 2 worlds. So one of endless night and darkness. And then a second world that's so bright that it burns. And then between the 2 worlds, 2 souls connect, collide, intertwine, a bridge, a path, a road to both worlds, changing forever. So I'm very excited. I picked this one up because if I remember correctly, this is a standalone of his, and I do know that he has quite a few big series. So I want to start with the standalone of Brandon Sanderson and then get into the other series. So that is book number 9. Book 10. I haven't read Six of Crows. I know there's going to be a couple more there. I think you're going to be like, how have you not read that yet? But Six of Crows. I think I bought this at the very start of my book reading journey, so that's probably over 2 years ago, and it's just sat on my shelf. I've bought all these other fantasy series, I've read them all, but Six of Crows I haven't read. I don't know if it's because it's young adult and that's putting me off, but I've heard such good things about it. So we have Six of Crows as book 10. Book 11 I don't currently have, but I did order it off Amazon, and it's Out on a Limb by Hannah Bowenyoung. I recently got Next of Kin, which I'm excited to read by her as well. I am yet to read any of her discography, but I have just heard really good things about that book. I'm excited to jump into her world and see if I like her kind of romance books, because I do love romance books with like a deeper meaning and a bit more of a connection. So I think that would be a really good one. So that is book 11. Book 12, we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I am yet to read a Lucy Score book. I own 4. I haven't read it, including the whole series of this. I bought this again very early into my reading journey. I think why I haven't picked it up is I've heard that people like book 1 and 2 and not 3 or something like that. So it's just kind of put me off. It's quite long for a romance book, and I hear that it's not people's favorite. They like it, but they don't love it. But that's not an excuse. I'm my own person. Maybe I'll love it. So I need to pick it up. I need to read it. I need to get it off my TBR. So that is the next book on the list. The 13th book is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Again, I've heard good things about this. I think it's just not a genre that I would buy today. I bought it early on when all I did was get recommendations of TikTok, which I don't recommend. Start with a couple, learn what genre you like, and then you can tailor the recommendation. This is like a Greek mythology book, and I just don't know if I'm gonna like it. The other thing I think that's put me off is I have Cirque, which I think technically I'm supposed to read before this one, but I could love it, and I need to read it. I need to give it a chance. I need to not judge it just because of its genre, because maybe Greek mythology is for me. I've never read Greek mythology, so how do I know I don't like it? So that is the next one. Caraval is our 14th book by Stephanie Garber. I do have a reason I haven't read this, so hear me out. I read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, loved it. I ate it up. I read book 1, book 2, book 3. I was lucky that I was late enough that I could go from book 1 to 2 to 3 all in a row, and I loved it. So I got Caraval, and I just hear the people on Book Talk that have read Caraval after the Once Upon a Time series, and they just wish they'd read this series first. So that is why I'm hesitant. But I could always read these 3 books, so this legendary finale, and then reread Once Upon a Broken Heart. I'm excited to get back into Stephanie Garber's reading, and I do think that this would be a great book when I'm in the right mood, because it's so whimsical, great escape from reality, so I'm excited to read this one. The 15th book on this year's TBR is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I haven't read it. I have all 3 again. This one embarrassingly has the sticker on it, and it says that I bought it on the 29th of July 2023, so I really need to get to it. I am not the biggest fan of thrillers, is what I've learned, and again, early on, especially in 2023, I kind of just bought every book that someone on TikTok said was good before I worked out what genres I like and what genres I don't prefer as much. So that's why I haven't read it yet. I also just feel like I'm too late to the game now, but that is a poor excuse. I need to read it. I need to give it a chance. If I don't like them, I can unhaul them. So this one we're going to read in 2025. The 16th one is to continue the Lunar Chronicles series. I read Cinder in 2024, maybe mid-year, and I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but it was the first sci-fi book that I read, which I do recommend. If you don't read sci-fi, start with a young adult. It's very easy. It's more of a fantasy than a sci-fi. It's just a Cinderella retelling, but Cinderella herself is a cyborg, and then there's like a little war that's going on. But it's very, very easy read. Nothing crazy, but the way that it ended made me very excited for the next book. So I do need to read Scarlet. I just want to finish this series. Again, I have a habit of buying the whole series, so I do have the whole series. So I want to get this series off my TBR. Book 17th, and the smallest on the list for sure, but it's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This is a very popular historical fiction book. My mum's partner lent me his copy and told me to give it a read because he knows I like World War II books, historical fiction, etc. And then I haven't read it. I then went to Auschwitz in the middle of the year, and I saw it, so I picked it up there, and I got it like stamped with the little date in here. So I picked this up on the 3rd of June, and it's just something that I think everyone should read. So I'm gonna pop it on the list for this year. I do think that it's only like 150 pages. It's very short. So that is gonna be the next book for this year. 18th book, we have Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. Again, I just happened to go shopping one day, and I thought that I should be cool and buy books that I haven't really heard much about. So I bought this one. It is a genre fiction. I think the people that have read it do quite like it, but it says, this is a story about Peter Duke, who went on to be a famous actor. This is a story about falling in love with Peter Duke, who wasn't famous at all. It's about falling so wildly in love with him the way one Will at 24 that it felt like jumping off a roof at midnight. There was no way to foresee the mess it would come to in the end. So I believe it's like the female main character retelling that story in her older life. That's what I know about it, and I think it's a general fiction or literary fiction. I just want to read it. I want to find out if this kind of genre is for me, kind of along the lines of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Could be a new favorite. So this is the next one on the list. Book 19. I am embarrassed that I haven't read this. It's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And again, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually haven't read any of hers. It's a similar one where I just bought it very early into my journey and then I got addicted to reading. And then what I've read about this book is that most people start with this book when they're beginning their reading journey. So I just worry that now I'm too far into it, which is stupid because you can read a book at whatever time you want. So need to read this. I do know the general premise. It's like a famous actress and then she finally sits down and she's ready to tell all about her life. I think that people cry in this and get quite sad. So I do really want to read it. I just never seem to pick it up. I seem to pick up like a romance or a fantasy or something a bit more fast-paced, but this is gonna be read this year for sure. Book 20 is a random one. It's Sparrow by James Hines. I picked this up at this little bookshop that I saw in Subiaco, and I just loved the cover. Like, look at that, it's stunning. The little like price tag on here was handwritten as well, which I liked. I think the premise of this just sounds really cool. So it's a stunning work of historical imagination, masterful in its portrayal of love, sex and friendship. Raised in a brothel at the edge of a dying empire, a boy of no known origin creates his own identity. He is Sparrow, who sings without reason and can fly from trouble. His world is a kitchen, a herb-scented garden, a loud and dangerous tavern, and the mysterious upstairs where the prostitutes, slaves from every corner of the empire conduct their business. That sounds really interesting. It's a book that I haven't heard anything about, but I want to read it. I want to get it off my TBR. I have had it, I think, since May of 2023, according to the barcode, which is embarrassing. So I really need to read the books that I bought early on and stop buying new ones. So this is book 20. Before we get into the 4 new releases that I have on my list, book 21 is the Mile High / the Windy City series. Again, I have them all. I have a habit of just buying them all because if I get the first one, surely I'm gonna love it. Again, don't really know why I haven't read it. I think with romances, I've been enjoying like Abby Jimenez, Sarah Adams, Emily Henry, those kind of authors more, but I haven't tried Liz Tomford, so this could be a new favorite. The other thing is I hear that I just have to push through with Mile High and then continue with the series because The Right Move, Play Along and Caught Up are supposedly a lot better. So I'm excited to read it. I guess I have to be in the right mood. It's about a hockey player and a flight attendant and then I assume they fall in love. So need to read the Windy City series. Alright, and then we have our 4 new releases. Obviously, Onyx Storm. Fourth Wing is my favorite book. I understand that makes me quite basic, but I just love it. It really, really, really got me into fantasy. It really got me into binge reading, which I guess can be a pro and a con because I should go to bed a bit earlier. But I'm so excited to see where this story goes. I, like a lot of people, didn't love Iron Flame. I respect the story that it's setting up. I just think the middle part was a little bit weak. So I'm excited to see what happens between Violet and Satan. I really should reread Fourth Wing. I'd love to do that this year as well. But I can't wait. I'm so excited and that comes out so soon. Next we have Fearless. Again, kind of similar to Fourth Wing. I loved Powerless and then Reckless was okay. Like, I appreciated it for what it was, but it did feel like it was quite repetitive with the storyline. Again, pretty good ending. I did guess the ending very early into the book, but I do want to see where she takes it, like what's going to happen in the next one. So I'm excited for that. And then we have Emily Henry's new release, Great Big Beautiful Life, that's coming in 2025. I have read all her books. I've enjoyed them. My favorite, even though I have People We Meet on Vacation shirt on, my favorite is actually Beach Reads. I'm excited to read that one. And then the final one that we have on the list, book 25, is Say You Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I got into Abby Jimenez this year. I read Yours Truly just for the summer, and the first book in that little interconnected series is off the top of my head. But I read those 3 books, loved them all, read them back to back to back. Recommend it to all new readers as well. It's just a great romance book, but it's got depth in it as well and keeps you really connected throughout the whole series. There you have it though. Those are the 25 books that I want to read in the year 2025. I'm excited to reflect back throughout the year and see how we're going. This is again the first time that I've ever done a yearly TBR, so I'm curious to see if we get them all off there. I've definitely put on some pretty easy reads that I know for sure I'll read, like Onyx Storm, your Abby Jimenez, Emily Henry, Binding 13 I'm pretty sure I'll get to, and then I've put on a few more that it's not that I'm not looking forward to reading them, but they're just not my preferred option. Things like The Song of Achilles, Good Girl's Guide for Murder, that kind of thing. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know any of the books that I've mentioned that you've read and loved, any that you haven't loved. What's on your 2025 list, any videos you want to see from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!